Let's go, folks. Time for the Gibby Show.
How you doing, baseball fans? And welcome to the debut show of the Gibby Show, your weekly podcast covering all things baseball and especially Toronto Blue Jays. We are here covering everything that goes on in the game we love. And with one of baseball's newest social media darlings, he's a big hit on Twitter, Instagram. He's doing it all. He's the former two-time manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a baseball lifer. He comes to us direct from San Antonio. My buddy John Gibbons. John, how you doing today? Welcome to the first episode of your show, man.
Hey, Johnny, it's I'm excited. You know what? This has been kind of in the works for a little bit now, and it finally arrived here. And you're one of my old buddies. We met in Shelby, North Carolina, in 1981 as roommates. So.
Yeah, we met actually. You were a number one draft pick with the New York Mets in 1980. You were signed to go to Shelby, North Carolina, and we shared a house in Shelby. And we had another interesting roommate. We had two, actually. One really didn't make it in the game of baseball, Mike Hennessy, but he certainly has made news around the world with all of his exploits in New Jersey. Good or bad. But the other guy, J.P. Ricciardi, who became instrumental in your life. So we were all roommates back then.
Yeah, believe it or not, we had two Italians from New York and Boston, and two Irishmen, and it was a great bunch, And J.P., we go way back. He gave me my first managing job, so he's pretty special to me also.
Yeah, it was a good group, and here on this show, we're going to talk baseball, we're going to talk Blue Jays, we're going to talk all the news that's going on in baseball, and we're going to have a special guest segment. And this week, the first guest is going to be somebody that you're very familiar with, the current New York Yankee. Your buddy Josh Donaldson will be joining us later.
The bringer of rain or the bringer of pain.
We'll see. You had an interesting tweet. Well, you had that little video tweet of him. He was like, "Yeah, the bringer of pain to my ass." So that got a lot of response. So we'll bring it on Josh later on to talk about it. But leading off, the pennant races, full swing. It's hot and heavy right now. As of today, let's talk about the Blue Jays. They sit only a half a game ahead, but they have the top wild card spot right now. They're 5.5 games in back of the lead, division-leading New York Yankees. Blue Jays are on a roll. They've done incredible over the last few weeks. They have a great record in September. Right now in September, they're 13-5, John. So Blue Jays are on a roll.
Yeah, Johnny, you know what? Bottom line, they're good. They're a good ball club, and they've proven themselves in the rugged American League East. Last year they won 90 games, and this year they're, like you said, they're sitting in the top spot. It's funny, they had a tough game yesterday. They blew it. That happens in baseball. This time of year it magnifies, but you know what? Move on. But I was looking at the standings and said, well, if they win today and they're in position to win, and the Yankees were losing, I think early, it would have been 3.5. And you're going, man. That's what's so crazy and wonderful about baseball and all these teams in it. Somebody gets hot, somebody cools off, and it's tough to win when you got to win. And the Yankees are in a position. Yeah, it was, they were running away with it not too long ago, but now
they had a 15.5 game lead not too long ago before the All-Star break.
And you know what? Reminds you of the when the Yankees ran down the Red Sox that one year. Remember? And then the old Bucky Dent.
I was at that game. I was at that Bucky Dent game.
Okay. So you're never safe in this game unless you're the Dodgers right now.
No. Yeah, the Dodgers have already, won 100 games. They've clinched. They're doing fabulous. The Jays are 6-4 in their last 10 games, but they got critical games coming up. Big games. Of course, they're playing the Phillies, which is not in their division, but the Phillies are fighting for their wild card spot. And the Jays then go in and they face Tampa Bay and then the Yankees. It's going to be a big week for the Jays.
Yeah, if you love baseball, does it get any better than this?
It don't.
And they, like you said, they play Philly, right? And Philly, what a turnaround they've made. Rob Thompson when he took over, a good Canadian boy, he took over, and it's like, it's nothing against Joe Girardi, but sometimes things just change, makes things happen really well. And it's kind of like John Schneider taking over in Toronto, even though they were in a good spot. He's done a tremendous job there himself. So, but they go to Philly, and Philly's got a good team. They just got swept in Atlanta, but Atlanta's unconscious right now.
Atlanta doesn't lose.
They don't lose, and anybody ought to know that better than you. It's Mr. Met. You're not the guy in the costume, but you're the real Mr. Met, and they,
the original Mr. Met.
Yeah. So
it's the
great
Braves
baseball.
are doing. Yeah, it's a great baseball, and of course, you just got back from a trip. You were on the road because you have been a special assignment scout for the Braves, so you're in the thick of things a little bit there yourself. I mean, watching what's going on, but right now going on with the Blue Jays. I mean, everything that's going on with them. I want to ask you right off the bat. I mean, because you were you were there, you were the skipper, you saw the pressure of a team in the playoff hunt. What's the atmosphere, do you think, in the atmosphere of the Blue Jays clubhouse right now as we're heading back to the last 2 weeks of the season? They're in there in the wild card. They seem to be getting a little bit of distance. But what's that atmosphere like right now for these boys?
Well, there's the excitement and the intensity revs up a notch. There's no doubt. You play major league games in April, and the games really matter. But now when you can see the finish line and everybody's scoreboard watching, there's a big intensity, and I think this is a crucial time where the manager, believe it or not, even with all these superstar players and the managers kind of in the background, things like that, they still usually teams take on the personality a lot of times of their manager, and if he's a tight guy that or he's a very loose guy, usually they'll follow. And I think it's really important at this time that the manager shows some confidence. And he takes the bullet for these guys when things go bad, and it's a good time to rally. But it's it's baseball. Baseball is really tough when you got to win. So sometimes it's easier to play the game when you're chasing somebody, right? But when you got that lead and it's close, and you got them guys breathing down your neck, it can be awful tough.
Yeah, I mean, and right now with the brackets the way they're set up to be, if the season ended today, it would be Tampa Bay against the Blue Jays for that wild card series, and enormous
Toronto,
amount of pressure. Right? Yes.
Yeah, that's
big.
You got
to fight because of the new rules in baseball. I mean, you have the brackets, and then the wild card team in the top seeds. They play all the games in the wild card series at their home stadium, so that's something to fight for too.
Yes. Plus, you don't want to play Tampa down in Tampa. I don't know what it is, but it's been this way for years. And not just against the Blue Jays. It was really tough on us. But I think all teams, right? There's just something about the Trop. I think they still call it the Trop down there. And it's the really nice thing about it, the temperature's regulated. It's like 70 degrees for game time because it's indoors. Other than that, there's just something. We call it the House of Horrors. So I do think it's important that they hang on to the lead. You don't want to play down there. And Seattle's kind of cooled off a little bit, but they got a heck of a team.
Yes.
So now it's really going to probably come down to, unless it gets really crazy and something happens with the Yanks, it's going to come down juggling for that actual.
And you want to play at home. The Jays want to be at home for that series. They want to host that series. And Tampa Bay, they haven't been drawing very much in that stadium. We're on the other side of the coin. If the Blue Jays have a competitive team like they've had this year, those fans pack the stadium. They're there. They support the team. So that home field advantage this year, and with this new system for the playoffs, they're like the 10th player. The fans are going to be like the 10th player.
Oh, yeah. You know what, John, that place is, especially, that time of year might start cooling off a little bit and they close that dome. When they close that dome and you got that many people in there in a ruckus crowd, I think it brings out the hockey in them, But, for the longest time when I was coaching managing there at the beginning, when the team wasn't really relevant, everybody always said, hey, if you guys are ever any good and get into this thing, watch this place. Not only this place, watch Canada, right? And sure enough, we saw it in 15, and it's like I can't describe it, And I know there's a bunch of great sports venues where fans are very instrumental. This is different, right? And then now,
in what way? What? How is it different, John?
Well, I mean, a lot of places are loud, right? But there's just something about this place. It's kind of like earth shattering. The place shakes. The place actually shakes, and they're into it. And Toronto and Canada, I mean, they got some of the best fans of baseball. I know everybody says that all the time. A lot of times, but I actually mean it. They're fair. If you give them a good effort, man, they love you. Then they'll cheer you on. If you screw up or have a bad game, they won't jump ship on you like a lot of places. And they, bottom line, they deserve a winner. It's been a while. Right,
and it's not like there's 30 teams playing in Canada.
No, exactly. You're the lone wolf, So that's
so it's interesting to get the whole country behind you.
Oh yeah, and it's it's really hard to be fair and try to explain and be fair about it, But just some great sports people, and they were. It was a long time coming. It's been 23 years since we got in 15, and now we went through a rebuild, and now it's there for them again. And this team has a chance to be really good for a good while because they're young, and they got a pretty good core.
Yeah, and you got a lot of people stepping up. Notable performances over the last week for the Jays. Matt Chapman, I mean, September 16th versus the Orioles, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. Bo Bichette, September 14th, go-ahead 3-run homer. You have Jordan Romano in the last 30 games, 4 wins, 1.39 ERA, 17 saves. I mean, it just goes on and on. It seems like the entire team is stepping up right now. This is the time to do it.
Oh yeah, that's what it takes. And all those guys you reeled off, very talented. Chapman, they brought him over from Oakland just for this purpose. He's a little more experienced guy than some of these other young kids, and as good a defender as you're gonna ever find. Yeah, but they need. It's been kind of a up and down year for him. Let's say they need him right now, and he's starting to do that. And then Big Bo, the fickleness of sports. Bo drove in over 100 runs last year. I think 30 or drove in 100 runs and hit 30 home runs, I think. And this year, everybody's kind of been screaming for whatever. And now he just kicked it in gear at the right time. Because he doesn't panic. So, big-time players step up when you need them, and that's what those guys are doing.
And a bit of a milestone this week, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., youngest Blue Jays player to reach 100 home runs. And that happened on September 14th, so that's quite a milestone for that young man.
Yeah, I'd like to be him. Better yet, I'd like to be his agent.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
You know what, Johnny? When he was first signed, I don't remember which year it was, but I was managing there, and the front office people came in and raved about this kid. Naturally, I knew the bloodlines, and his old man was a heck of a player, future Hall of Famer, right? So you knew there was something there. And they said, he's obviously a few years away, but, hopefully you get to see him. I didn't get to see him until, some exhibition-type games. But he's one of those guys, the generational players, everybody says, can't miss. Those guys are rare. So he gets there, and the growing pains, they all go through growing pains. But you could see this guy's just a tremendous hitter, right? But there were people saying, hey, what's wrong with him, blah, blah, blah. It just takes a little bit of time. He was inconsistent. Now he's coming off a big year last year where, he was in the running for the MVP. And if Ohtani wasn't a two-way player, he might have won it, right? So, and then this year it's kind of been a hot and cold for him. I mean, now he's probably going to be a big guy down the stretch. But for 100 home runs that soon in your career, I mean, those are the guys that do that are the guys that go on and are remembered historically in this game, right? And so no telling how many he might hit. I'm not sure his dad must have hit like about 300-400 himself, I think.
Oh,
so.
I don't know this particular, but he was just he was the
so
complete player, man.
So that would be a pretty cool deal, father son,
Yeah.
You had the Griffeys and all that, but I think this would really top that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, but you know what? The bottom line is he's gonna be around a long time too. He's still a young pup, but he's. I hope he sticks with being a good hitter and not turning into a guy that chases home runs all the time. Because when he came up, he was just the opposite of his dad. His dad was a free swinger. He hit that ball with a bounce in the dirt, right? But Vladdy Jr., I mean, was just a good hitter. He'd take his line drives, take his walks. And I've seen a little bit lately, seems like he's a little bit overly aggressive. You know, that's when it gets him in trouble. And because, you know, people start complaining about, hey, not hitting enough home runs. Well, he's young enough to, you know, be influenced by that. So I hope he sticks to who he is and is a complete hitter. Then there's no telling how good he's going to be. So, but he's a big part of this.
It's going to be exciting to see the playoffs. I mean, it's just, you know, for me personally, I'm looking forward to the playoffs more this year than ever before because of the new format. And my dream is something that didn't happen in 2015, and that was having the Mets and the Jays in the World Series.
Are you blaming that on me? Maybe you should. I got to take the.
I am not blaming it on you, John. I was just hoping for it. You know, I was like,
your
that
team,
would have been a
there.
dream for me. Yeah, it did. You know, but
team.
we I'm not going to say choked at all, but it was just it was a comedy of errors in many, many spots, and it was heartbreaking. And hopefully this year will be different. You know,
that's the beauty of this game. You know, you think you got this thing, once you think you got it figured out, you're done. You know,
that's right.
But
you don't have it figured out.
You know, 15 was a year I thought we should have won it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say won it all.
Yeah.
16, I don't think we were quite as strong. We were a different kind of team. But so I definitely have regrets about that. You know, but Kansas City, I'm telling you, Kansas City played a different style of game, and they played it as good as you can ever play it. You know,
they did.
So
it was a good series, but this year it's going to be great, and I can't wait for it to get started. I mean, there's a lot going on in baseball. I mean, a tremendous amount. I mean, just we're watching Albert Pujols. Now, this guy is finishing up his career.
Yeah.
He's now just 2 homers away from 700. He's got 698. Hit a monster shot this weekend. He's only behind Barry Bonds. He'll, you know, obviously 762. Aaron at 755. Babe Ruth 714, and Pujols solo spot number 4 all time. And he's having a really good season for his last season. I mean, he's had 19 home runs. I mean, he didn't do much last year, but he's finishing up in a way that will probably be revered by Cardinal fans forever, to bring this guy back and have him finish up.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he comes back to where it all started. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's kind of like David Ortiz, you know, when his final years, like, you know, one of his best ever, you know. So the game will miss Albert. You know, I have some ties with Albert. I managed him out in the Arizona Fall League. I think it was 2000.
Wow.
You know, and it was the following spring when he made the Cardinals and took off. But it was like I was talking about Vladdy a minute ago. This guy was just a good hitter. You know, he wasn't a guy just swinging for the fences and, you know, was going to strike out, you know, a tremendous amount of time, but hit his home runs. He was he was a damn good hitter. He'd take his hits the other way. Now, and then we got to the big leagues, he started pulling the ball a little bit, learned how to pull it, and a lot of his shots are, pull shots, home runs. But he's also understands he's getting paid to do that. That's what they want at him. So, but he'll burn you, man. If you ain't careful, he'll burn you for a little cheap RBI the other way. But those are the great hitters in the game, you know. And our guest later today, the bringer of rain, he's that kind of guy. You know, he's not going to hit 7 home runs, but he's a freaking good hitter.
Very intense individual, man.
Yes, good. Yeah.
Well, watching Pujols has been really heartwarming. But then you go on the other side, and there's a guy playing out in San Diego now, Mr. Juan Soto, who has not been doing very well. He'd been in a horrible slump, 3 hits and 48 at-bats. He finally hit home run number 25 of the season this weekend. But what do you think is going on with Juan Soto? I mean, it's kind of a mystery, but
yeah, I don't know.
Count the money first.
He might be having second thoughts about not signing that deal, though. I guarantee you that. Or maybe he's just in mourning for what happened to Tatis. You know, he's not with the team, and everybody's sad down in the dumps. I don't know. But you know, I will say this about players changing teams, because I've seen it a lot. Right, whether it's become a free agent or somebody gets traded. Because there's no guarantees. Even look at the Yankees, Montas. You know, he came in there, everybody's celebrating, and I think he's getting checked for an injury. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time to adjust. When you come to, I think it's more of a mental thing because you're with a new team, and they put added pressures on themselves, and even like a free agent. Well, free agents, they try to justify the money, I think, if they care, that kind of guy. And so usually it's the year after, things like that, you really see the true guy. But I mean, this is a mystery. I mean, this guy was, the way he was being celebrated, and everybody says all he needed in Washington was a couple guys behind him. Well, I think he had Cruz, and he had the switch hitting first baseman. I forgot his name, but it's concerning. I think I don't care what his statistics are at the end of that. There's going to be, when it's time to sign that big contract, there's going to be some teams that remember, what happened.
Right.
Or
it all depends on what happens next year too. I mean, who knows? I mean, he had that guaranteed. That money was guaranteed. It was the biggest contract ever, and he was like, nope. It's strange.
I don't know if you call that arrogance or what, but you know what? Because I got to believe with 400 or 450, what was it they offered? Regardless,
it was about almost 450.
There's a lot of people in your family, in your background. You can take care of, a lot of people.
You can take care of your whole city.
Exactly. So, I hope it turns out well for him. But I tell you what, I think somebody would kick me in the head if I turned that down.
Oh my goodness!
But I was never any good, so I wouldn't have to worry about that.
Well, you know what, John? You're going to be the king of podcasts. You will be. This is your calling, my friend. Until you get that call and go back into the dugout with somebody.
Hey, you know what the problem with all this? You say that, I'm so have a hard time with that stuff and hitting the right buttons or whatever. Just to get on these shows that we're doing today, I had to get my wife in here a couple of times to figure out how to do the volume. I'm embarrassed to say that, but tech savvy, I don't know.
Hey, listen, but it's going to be an adventure for you, and we're looking forward to see how all of this unfolds. I mean, in baseball, there was another really significant event that took place over the last week, and that was Roberto Clemente Day. I mean, while the Jays lost to the Rays 11-0 on September 15th, that game is going to go down in Major League Baseball history. The Rays fielded Major League Baseball's first all Latino lineup. It was the first time it ever happened in one game. The significance of this cannot be overstated. It was the first Latino lineup in the history of the game, and it celebrated and honored the first Latin American player ever to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. So I thought that was a significant event, and they did it right for Clemente. I was, everyone wore number 21. It was a tribute to him, and I don't know if you're old enough. I am old enough. I'm only 5 years older than you. But did you ever get to see Clemente play?
No, but I've seen enough highlights, and I always remember he'd hit these rockets, and he'd always be way out on his front foot, it's very different than a lot, tremendous weight transfer, almost like the Charlie Lau thinking of hitting, But I can remember seeing the highlights. It was Pittsburgh days, the cannon of arm he had throwing guys out.
Amazing.
And you know what? It was so cool the way that played out. I don't know if Cassie down there did that by design. I mean, he's got a lot of Latin players, or just worked out that way. We fielded a lineup one time in Toronto. There were 6 Dominicans in there, from all the 6 players from the Dominican Republic. It's not there's a difference between 6 and 9, but ours were
right. It is, but still, I mean, it was significant.
It was cool at the time. It was really cool.
And that's what the Rays did to honor Clemente. And I have to give you a little bit of a tidbit, a little side note here. The very first baseball game I ever attended live, July 3rd, 1966. My New York Mets took on the Pittsburgh Pirates in a doubleheader at Shea Stadium, and I got to see Clemente play in that very first game I ever went to see. So I'll never, ever forget it. And I saw him play many times before his unfortunate passing on that on that
humanitarian
charity.
mission, right?
My goodness, it was
just
so
what
sad.
kind of guy. How many people do that nowadays? I mean, you think about it. me included.
find
You're
him.
going to go help somebody in different. Was it earthquake in Nicaragua or something? He was going to go.
Yes.
Yeah. So not only a great player, just a great human being, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are going to have a weekly segment here, which we're going to get into for the first time, and that's going to be our Gabbing with Gibby segment.
Nice.
And we're going to be joined by somebody that you're very familiar with. It's a pleasure to bring on the Gibby Show in our first Gabbing with Gibby segment. One of the American League East front-running New York Yankees players, the third baseman, one of the premier players in the game, former Blue Jay, former American League MVP, the player with the most walk-off hits in the major league since 2010, including eight walk-off home runs, Josh Donaldson. Josh, welcome to the debut of Gabbing with Gibby on the Gibby Show.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of gabbing, that's for sure. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Hey,
what a reunion.
Did you realize all that? Did you know you had 8 walk-off homers? Or were you prepared to tell us that whether we asked or not?
No, I had a good idea. I remember a few of them.
Hey, let me tell you, that's hard to do. I can remember sitting on the bench, when teams go through the ups and downs, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of great players never had one walk off it. But I'd say to DeMarlo, the bench coach, they said, "Damn it, one of these guys, somebody get a walk off, a big hit right here to win the game for once, right?" And then you did it many times. But I got to tell you, you know what? You're with the New York Yankees now, in your debut, Yankee Stadium, you ended the game on a walk off hit, and I think you've had 3 this year. The big one the other night was the Grand Slam. And I check it. Believe it or not, I researched some things. And I think there's only 3 players in Yankee history that have walk-off grand slams when the team was trailing by 3.
Yeah.
You, Giambi, and who you think the other big boy is? Mr. Baseball, maybe.
Yeah, I think Babe Ruth.
The Bambino.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So I mean, I've been told that. That's the only reason I know that. I'm not a big Yankee historian. That's for sure.
My ass. How you doing, man? Wait, first off, I know I'm speaking for all Blue Jays fans and myself personally. We want to thank you for your time in Toronto, what you did to that organization. Been 23 years. You were traded there in 15. You and Russell Martin, and it all just kind of gelled together, put us over the top. And they thank you for that. I thank you for that. You helped keep me around the game a couple extra years. I'll tell you that. But now you're part of the evil empire. Remember, Larry Lucchino said that he's a Red Sox owner, so the evil empire. But how's that gone so far? Is he enjoying that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. It's good to be back in the AL East. It's good to be back in the heat of competition. Obviously, I think for many years the AL East has been that division in baseball that everybody's looked to as saying that this is the best division in the game. Being a part of the AL East and the NL East, both of them are pretty similar. To where AL East has probably got a few more lineups that can bang up and down, and then the NL East has probably got a couple more arms in that league, especially from the starting pitching side. When I was there, especially when you had Scherzer and Strasburg. I know he's missed some time over the past couple of years, but there were some big arms in that. DeGrom.
Oh yeah. People don't. Big part. We talked the American League East and National League East. A big part of that too is the cities you play in. They're hard.
No doubt.
Hard cities, hard-nosed people. Johnny's a New Yorker himself, but you know what? That's why when you got traded over there, a handful of New York reporters called me and said, we picked up Josh. What do you think? I said, you know what? He'll be perfect there because a lot of guys can't play there, right? And I said, I don't care what he's getting. He's getting near the end of his career. I don't care what his production is. I said, the fans there they'll fall in love with him. They'll love him, they'll hate him, and that's kind of who he is anyway. He can be a lightning rod, but that's what New York craves. Whether you go back to the days of Paul O'Neill's, David Wells, Clemens, or even you go back further, Thurman,
Reggie.
Munson, Reggie.
Yeah.
Pinella. You know, that's what they identify with. In '86, I was with the Mets. That's what New York loved. They were full of those kind of guys. So I said, that won't be an issue for Josh at all. And you know, they're going to love him. Yeah. So anyway, and you take them by storm on the first game of the year and hit a walk-off hit. That's how you do it, man. Because otherwise they bury you.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a different city that I've ever played in, but you know, they're passionate. They come to the yard every day, and they live and die by if we win or lose. And so you just kind of have to remember that they're probably not rational, and you know, they're definitely not thinking logically for the most part. So at the end of the day,
you're under a microscope if you look at it. I mean, the intense media coverage, the fans are just hardcore. So it's got to be a different experience for you than the other teams you played with.
Yeah, you know, Toronto at that time hadn't, from the baseball side, experienced a winner in so long that you know, if they were just hoping that you came in and played well and you could help win some ball games. And then once really the All-Star break in 15, you know, we were hovering around 500. And then we were able to get David Price, Troy Tulowitzki, and add some key pieces to the bullpen. Ben Revere also was, you know, important for our team. You know, the fans just, once we made those trades, it was a sellout every night, and the energy and the atmosphere was absolutely electric. To where in New York, they've experienced that so many times as a fan base already that it's almost kind of like they expect that, right? Their expectations are higher than just winning the division. Everything's about playoff baseball, and you know, that's just the part of the season that we're about to get to right now. And as a player, it makes it fun, but also, you know, that the climate of where you're at and how things can get, you know, over emphasized one way or another.
Hey, but you know what? Hey, Josh, and then we're going to move on to some other Blue Jay stuff. But
yeah,
you're the perfect guy there. Like I said, you know what? Because they like that. You know what? They like somebody they can get on that's emotional, what have you. They don't want a bunch of guys that, you know, on a day off they're going to go down to the Fashion Week downtown New York. You know, where they're worried about how they look and all that. No, they want guys that fight, the guys that that's what New York is, you know, right, Johnny?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
absolutely right. I mean, New York is hard to the core, and you know, it's different being a Mets fan than a Yankees fan, obviously, because the Mets find a different way to break your heart every single year. I've gone through that since 1966, and we haven't had, you know, a ton of World Series, and we always look at the Yankees as that evil empire. But it is special this year, though, Josh. I mean, you're in a division most competitive. The Yankees are on their way to playoffs for sure. But you're also a teammate of Aaron Judge, and this is such a historic run that this guy's on. 59 home runs, 2 away from Roger Maris's all-time record, 61. How does it feel to be not only a part of a team that has this rich history, but looking at the history that Judge is making this year as a possible Triple Crown winner, MVP, and now the record is right in front of him? I mean, as a teammate, how, you know, describe to us that experience.
Yeah, I mean, he's having, you know, a season that we haven't really seen in a long time. I remember when Miguel Cabrera was going for his Triple Crown, I was able to get that. That was 2012. But I want to say, if you go further beyond that to when the previous Triple Crown was won, I want to say it was in the 50s. Gibby, do you know who that was?
Yaz got it in 67. Yeah.
67. So, okay, so 67. So it had been a long time since that Triple Crown. If he's able to do that, and wouldn't be surprised with the year that he's having, because you know, he's already done so much this year. but it's just incredible because even for myself, when I had won the MVP award, I want to say I had like probably like 2-3 weeks in that season to where it was like I'm not really feeling it at the moment. To where I want to say like for the better part of the entire season, there might have been like 4 or 5 days when he looked maybe like a touch out of whack. I don't even know if it's been that many, but he's been dialed in all year long. And really, I think Yankee Stadium kind of gets talked about as this bandbox of a ballpark, short right field. But you look at the other dimensions, like straightaway left's pretty deep, center's deep, right center, left center is huge. It's 399 to left center, when most parks are 375 to 380. I mean, City Field's 265 at that part, to where that's where the real power comes into play, like where most of your balls are getting hit. And I say that to say he's probably had like 4 or 5 homers, maybe more, taken away. I remember early in the year, I think he had 2 or 3 balls that were robbed that were going to be homers. And so he could already be past 60 right now if it was, a little bit of fortune on his side was in that regard as well.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Yeah, like you said, you got that right field there. Yeah, he's using the whole field. That's one thing
he does.
Get, right? There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys in the game, that you have known over the years as the true sluggers in the game, right? But they're not necessarily the complete hitters. You were one of those guys. You have no problem taking a shot the other way, right? Because if that's what they're giving you. But a lot of guys can't do that, and you see that's why we got so many shifts nowadays and all that stuff. But Judge seems like he'll use it all. When you're 6'7" and you make enough contact, that's some leverage, baby. You got some.
He
That ball's
definitely
gonna
has
go
that.
a long way. I can't believe they still pitch to him. I guess it depends, behind you, who's behind you. But
Yeah, I mean, they've done a good job of kind of. I mean, you did this for me when I was there a little bit too. Is whatever the offense was going, kind of you led me off a few games, and we've been able to do that the last like couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and it's got us going. So if you lead him off to start the game and he walks, or you don't want to pitch to him, you're kind of setting yourself up for trouble early on in that game by not wanting to pitch to him.
But what we did with you, I mean, we remember we flipped Batista, we let him off, and you were in that 2-hole because we always felt the best hitter was that 2 spot. It used to be the 3-hole guy years ago, now in the 2-hole at the time. And then Eddie came by, Encarnacion behind you. So, and a lot of times those pitchers come out of the bullpen, they're feeling it. If they, the first inning of the throwing, they're not always sharp. And you run through that gauntlet, you 3 guys, the game could be, there could be 3 runs on the board before you know it, so.
Yeah, it happened it happened often, where that was the case. And I think when we were leading Bautista off, that was more like, I want to say maybe 17, a little bit in 16, but in 15, I started the year hitting in the 5-hole. We had Russell in the 2-hole.
Right.
And I remember we sat down in the office and I'm like, hey, I think let's get me to the 2-hole. And so now you have me, Bautista, Edwin, and you're like, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
All right, well, did you really? Hey, did you really come in there? This is Skip. This is great strategy. Or you bitch and say, hey, I need to be hit higher in the lineup. Who do you think I am? I've been in there running for that MVP the last 5 years, for crying out loud. Would you wake up at the helm, please?
Well, I mean, I think it's just a matter of interpretation. And how I was expressing myself at that moment.
It was the smartest move we made, but I never gave you credit. But so I'll give you credit now.
No, so I mean, I think at the end of the day, I get asked so many questions about our lineup, and I've played with a few teams now. I get guys on the other teams, especially catchers, like, man, it was so tough to call a game against you guys because we had the ability to hit homers, and we also grinded guys down by taking our walks and being patient at the plate. And not giving up free outs. And I felt like our team through the lineup, it was just, guys that could really put together at bats.
Well, you didn't tell them we were in there banging the garbage cans, did you? You didn't. Oh, that was before that. My bad. I say all the time, for crying out loud, some of the teams I've been on, we're doing some of that. I might still be managing, man. We might have won a few more games.
Yeah. So some of the stuff I hear about what guys were doing and teams were doing, I'm like, shit. I mean, I wish I would have known about this. Who knows what my numbers would have been?
Exactly.
Well, hey, you mean to tell me you guys knew what was coming? I'm like, all right.
Yeah, you've had a great career, and it was an honor managing. You've been one of the best players in the game for the last decade or more, and it wasn't an easy thing that happened quickly for you necessarily. You had to reinvent yourself, right. But it's. You'll go down in history, man, as one of the best. You're one of the characters of the game. I think baseball's kind of lost that a little bit. Baseball needs that, but you're not an easy guy either. I mean, you're an emotional guy, like most great players are. And we had our share there in Toronto. But one thing I'll say, everybody knew where you stood, right? And you and I had our battles about things like there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell everybody, you know what? One thing about Josh, you get a lot of players in this game. They're really good players, they're playing the game, what have you. Josh is in tune with everything. We go out to the mound, whether talk to the pitcher, make a pitching change, and you talk to him baseball about strategy. And when the first time when you showed up and you did it, I'm thinking, son of a bitch, shut up, under my breath going, hey, I'm the running this team, right? I'm the manager. You know what? And anyway, and then we got a great story, and it was a huge. But that was the give and take. And finally, I said, Josh knows what he's talking about. Maybe I ought to start listening a little more often. So I can remember, I can remember telling you, hey, Josh, when you're over at third base, if you think the pitcher, we need to make a pitcher change, kind of look at me and give me a little sign. I was joking. I got too much pride to do that. But there was one game.
No, my favorite was you'd come up to the mound and I'd say, Gibby, what the hell are you bringing this guy in for? And you're like, I got a gut feeling, JD. I got a gut feeling.
I got an upset gut.
I say, are you sure you don't got gas? Or
well, you saw my appetite. But hey, what in the most?
But hey, a lot of times you were right. A lot of times it was right. And I remember you nailed it with Joe B. and Genie that year. And I remember it was like the first week he kind of, had an outing where it went okay, and then one that went really well. And he came out of the game one day when you're making the change, and you're like, that kid's going to get some big outs for us this year. And he did. And, he
better. We got nobody else. He sure hell better.
No, we had some guys
he was
back
good.
there.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm messing with it. But there's one game I got to bring, one of my favorite stories. And it was the biggest game of the year. One of the biggest games of my career as a manager, right? It's game 4 down in Texas. RA's pitching, right? So hey, that's the 5 that we dropped to the Rangers in Toronto, but there was no panic in our guys. That's one thing about this, that team. You know what?
Yeah.
Confidence can be, right? So we ended up winning the game 3. Marco was unbelievable. Estrada.
Marco pitched a great game.
Oh, he was big clutch guy. We go in that game 4. Dickey's pitching, and we get a nice little lead, and he's pitching pretty good. But
hold up. Nice little lead. Do you remember what the score was?
Was it 7-1 or 2 or something?
It was like 7-1 or something like that, or 8-1. Go ahead, keep your story going.
But see,
that matters.
This was kind of on the verge when analytics was coming in. But see, I was an analytics dream before analytics. Because it was the third time through the lineup. But you know what? Nobody thought about it back then. See, and I get chastised for being anti-analytics. I was so far ahead of the game. But anyway,
you're so far ahead. I don't even know what they're thinking.
But well, beforehand, I see you guys. If you're not thinking about the whole team like I was, David, don't forget David Price offered, or he said, I'll be the left-hander because Brett Cecil got hurt and Loopy, his wife, was in the hospital. So he had to be there. So we had no left-hander, right? They got some pretty good, damn good left-handed hitters. So Dave Price comes to me and says, hey, listen, after his first game start, I'll pitch out of the bullpen. I said, perfect. Let's do it. So, that's how he made his name coming up with the Tampa that year.
Yep.
So the night before, when Estrada's pitching, he, we get him up in the pen, right? And Estrada gets out of the inning. So anyway, I see him the next day. Here's a guy that's thrown his 220 innings, like he's done for every year. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's going to make a mega fortune. I got to think of this guy too. So I said that Sunday morning, I said, listen, if I get you up today, you're in a game. There's no more dry humps, right? I can't do that to you. And he said, I appreciate that. So the Texas Rangers fans are on half asleep. And these guys had all hit Dickey really good, and we're going to leave. And I'm thinking, you know what?
No, they didn't.
I can't wait too long. Anyway, I did this. Anyway, cut through the short story. So I go out to the mound to take Dickey out. All right, he's shocked. He should have, man. I think everybody.
Okay, it was the fifth inning. I think it's like he had four.
It was like an out or 2 outs in the fourth. Yeah,
it was either 1 or 2 outs in the inning, and
Chu. I forget his first. Was it Hinsu?
Yeah, he was coming up. but
no, he just got a knock. It was his second hit of the day.
And he had hit the only 2 balls hard the entire game.
Well, it doesn't matter. Did you not see? Did you not watch that? Did you not watch that knuckleball over the years? 1 inning it's good, then 1 inning it may leave, man. It turns in as a BP pitch. Sorry, and the ball flies in Texas. So anyway, I go out to the mound. Those that are listening, and I'm sitting there, and RA's looking at me, and I'm going, I was debating. It wasn't an easy thing to do, right? And I get out there, and you go, this is bullshit. I'm going. If I could have choked you, man, I wasn't on national TV, I would have grabbed you. You had longer hair back then. So anyway, he comes out, Dave comes in and gets out of here, right? And we won the game, by the way. That's all that matters. So we go to the dugout, the inning's over, and you walk by, and that's one thing I loved about you. And we had that kind of relationship. You told me how you felt. I got no problem, but I'm gonna tell you how I feel too. So you came by, and we're going out, and you walked up the thing, and I went up. We talked a couple things. So anyway. The beauty of the story is the following year where we're playing a game, right? And RA was pitching, right? And the knuckleball, in all fairness to him, it's tough. You can't control that. You don't know what's coming and going.
Yeah,
we get a nice little lead, and a couple of homers, boom. Now we're tied or trailing, right? And so you come in the dugout, you're pissing and moaning about something about, blowing a lead or something. And I heard it. You sit down. I walked over. I go, hey, would you repeat? What did you just say? And I said, repeat it one more time. You told me about, and I said, oh, really? You remember, what was it, 12 months ago in that freaking playoff game? That was my argument. You tell me what a dumbass I was and blah, blah. so anyway, that's a beauty.
Well, I tell you, you guys have had this incredible chemistry with each other, and but when you talk about the R.A. Dickey story, but also, you're really in Blue Jays baseball lore. You guys are known for what happened August 17, 2016 in the dugout.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, things happen during the course of a game, and everybody knows what we're talking about. It was the bat that was thrown after the strikeout against CC Sabathia, and television cameras caught it all. It reminded me of when Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson went at it in the dugout in 1978. But this was quite a story back then. I'd like to just ask you both your remembrances of that story. And, obviously you guys are here today. Josh, you're writing the forward for Gibby's new book coming out. So you got a great chemistry, great friendship. But back then, on that day in August, things got heated. So why don't you guys go talk about that?
Yeah, well, I think to sum up what Gibby was saying earlier with me, because I felt as a leader of the team and as a player who genuinely cared,
no doubt,
put his heart and soul into every game and wanted to win every single game. that there were definitely times to where, and this is what I appreciated about Gibby, is I could say what I felt to Gibby, and Gibby would be like, all right, yeah, well, I was thinking this, and I'd be like, all right, well, look, cool, like as long as we're on the same game plan here, so I know what I'm fighting for. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, both of us are rednecks down at heart, so we're gonna there could be a little red ass in there
Or
between
country
both
boys.
of us.
Country boys. Anyway.
Yeah, country boys, whatever you want to say. And as to where we could, get the red ass at times. And I'd say self to Gibby. And for the most part, Gibby would just brush me off, and he'd say, "Hey, come back here, have a beer." And so after the game, we'd go and talk, and we would, let cooler heads prevail at times. But Gibby always knew that I cared, and I think that's genuinely, and I knew that he cared, and I knew he cared about me. So we could have that sometimes banter between each other as a player manager. And as Gibby said, I've heard him say something, other times that, he was kind of a father figure for me, which, that was true in some cases. But that day in New York, I want to say it was our third game in about our 24 hours. The day before, we had a doubleheader, and I was at the field from like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning the next day, because we had 2 or 3 rain delays in that game, and we were up like 6 games in the division going into, I think it was September, into August, early September. And the Yankees guys over there, like they're sitting their guys, and they're
Babe Ruth would have played.
Guys.
Babe Ruth would have played.
And I come to the lineup the next day, and I was like, damn, I'm like,
we literally are playing, and I think we went extra innings the second game, like 12 innings. So it was 21 innings. It was 21 innings in one day, and the next day we had like a 12:30 start. And I'm like, I'm just gassed at the time. And Gibby's got me in the lineup, and I'm, I wasn't very pleasant to begin the day with. I had probably about 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I get first at bat, CC's blows like 89 past me. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And Gibby kind of hears me under my breath. He's like, what'd you say? And I'm like, I don't even know why the hell you put me in the lineup today. I got nothing. He's like, oh, you never know. I've seen you had nothing before and you go deep. And I'm like, yeah, I got nothing in the tank. And he's like, come on, get it together. I'm like, all right. So second at bat, he blows me away again with like 88. And I come into the dugout, and I didn't throw my bat. I hit it up against the rail where Gibby was standing. And Gibby got the ass at me, and he comes down. He's like, hey, was that directed towards me? I'm like, no, Gibby, I just got my doors blown off for the second time. I'm on like 4 hours of sleep right now. Give me a break. And
he looks at me, and I didn't say those words. That's what I was feeling. I probably said
something where I popped off. And then that's where Gibby got. Yeah, I said something that I popped off to him. And, I didn't back down. And Gibby sure in the hell wasn't backing down. And I just remember I remember Totally first coming over there and trying to stop me. I'm like, Totally, get the hell out of my face.
and then Tulo came over and grabbed me up. He's like, hey, this is New York. You don't need to do that. And I'm like, wow. All right, yep, all right. Just because, it was a wrong day for me and probably a wrong day for Gibby as well. And
they're always a wrong day for me.
Well, yeah, things get heat of the moment. Obviously, your description of all the no sleep and the innings played and all of that pressure. But you had some interesting comments after that situation took place that I think we got a sound bite of that we're going to play. But yeah, let's. You had an interesting way of describing why that happened and what happened.
I just come back to the dugout and hit my bat against the thing, and Gibby asked me what kind of cologne I was wearing, and I said it's this new cologne called Tom Ford. I just got it. He's like, really? Oh, so he kind of got pretty close to me, and I guess got a good whiff of it. And I was like, hey man, back up. So I was like, I'll give you some after the game. So then we separated.
Well, I gotta give Gibby credit for this, is because Gibby was the media darling of that. That was his nickname for himself. That was his nickname. He was the media darling. He knew how he had a way with words. And I remember Jay Stenhouse came up to me after the incident came up, and he's like, Josh, they're gonna want to talk to you. I'm like, yeah, I understand. And he's like, Gibby played it off, and that's what Gibby would do. Gibby would take the high road and make it seem minimal to whatever it was. And whenever that happened, it was actually just a coincidence. I went to the mall in New York the day before and bought some Tom Ford cologne. And so for some reason that popped into my head, and I was just doing my best John Gibbons at that time.
The mall, I figured you went to Walmart to get that Tom Ford. They sell it there.
I don't think they sell it at Walmart, John.
Hey,
I'm highfalutin now,
Hey, the truth is, you didn't have Tom Ford on. You had my sweat that was dripping off of me. That's what you were wearing right at that moment. Let me tell you. You know what? People
you just better be glad. Hey, you just better be glad Tulo came in and stepped in between us, because this wasn't going to be a Ted Lilly situation. You were going to get your ass.
Hey, Tulo is the peacemaker. There's no doubt. But you know what? People see those and they go, oh. In reality, they don't all happen a lot. But you know what? When you got with somebody 162 games.
Yeah.
And sometimes things happen, and there's high intensity, and it's nothing personal, when know who's involved with, but the tensions flare, and there's a lot of pressure on these guys. The manager has certain kind of pressure, but it's not what the players do. Yeah. So we don't always understand the fatigue and it would have been smart to give him a day off.
Well, no question. I tell you what, I think
it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. I think Francisco Lindor kind of took something from that page last year when he had that little brush up with McNeil, and the press asked him what happened. Well, we were arguing whether we saw a rat or a raccoon. So, I mean, it was kind of a good way to diffuse it, to add a little, levity to the situation.
Were they still playing in Shea? They were playing in Shea Stadium.
Yeah, they were playing in Shea.
It was a rat or a raccoon.
It might have been some leftovers from the Shea Stadium days for sure. But I really appreciate you guys talking about that incident. Just really the passion you both have and the friendship you both have. And Josh, I want to thank you for your time today. John, you want to have anything else for Josh? But this has been a great first Gabbing with Gibby segment.
Oh yeah, well, I'm proud of the guy. You know what? He's like I said when I said earlier, I got to thank him for helping my career last a little bit longer. I mean, that's not a joke. I mean, let's be honest. And his personality is a lot like mine in certain ways, and so I always always liked the kid, right? The kid, you're not a kid. For crying out loud, you're not a kid.
Yeah, not anymore. But I always appreciated Gibby. We'd be like something would happen or whatnot. And Gibby, we'd say something to Gibby about it. He'd be like, "Well, what are they gonna do? Fire me again? They've already fired me once. I can be fired twice.
Are they gonna do me a favor, so go home and pay me?"
And so. At the end of the day, I thought it was actually, I think guys responded to that like, hey, Gibby was who he was. He was going to take ownership for it. And, as a leader of that team, I always wanted to, give that off as well. Like, hey, we're going to take ownership for this. We're going to back Gibby. Gibby backs us. And I think that's, something that's really lost in the game today.
everything's backed up by analytics, or well, it should have done this. The numbers say do this. Well, Gibby wasn't scared to kind of do his own thing. And this is obviously before he was managing before some of the analytics stuff. But hey, even to this day, I mean, I think that Gibby stood behind whatever move that he did, and at the end of it, end all be all, like Gibby had control of the clubhouse because we all knew that he had our back, and he was always upfront with talking to the guys who were quote unquote the leaders of the team and asking advice to what he thinks about this and that. And I thought that was important. I thought that was always important to have that communication between manager and player. And I think that helped me play to the ability that I played. I was, watching something last night. I was talking about Jamal Williams. He's a running back for Detroit, and he kind of wears like some like headbands and does all this stuff. The coach, they were asking him why they let him do it, and I thought the coach's response was great. And it kind of reminds me of what Gibby would do with us. He's like, if you take that away from Jamal Williams, how he's expressing himself on the field, and by whether it's what he's wearing, or if he's having some particular warm up or whatever it is, you're not going to get the best of Jamal Williams. And I felt like Gibby always allowed us to do that as a player, to express ourselves. And even if we were wrong sometimes, to be like, hey, like I still got you. And now we might talk about it after and say we need to clean it up a little bit. But in the heat of the moment, it's I got you. We'll take care of this and move on. And today, in today's world of managers, they don't even, for the most part, they don't even say anything. They just sit back and read a paper. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of teams are missing out.
Yeah, the human element still there. But hey, listen, we can't thank you enough taking your off day to join us. Is the launch of the show, brother. Now I'm going to check these ratings tomorrow. If these ratings are in the tank, I'm blaming you. I ain't blaming myself. And if it takes off, I'm giving myself credit. Right?
I'll take it. I'll
take the credit when it's good.
Exactly. You do that, and I'll take it if it falls.
That's right. All right, pal. Well, listen, take care of that family, man. We're proud of you. Best of luck the rest of the way. You're a big time player. Great move by the Yankees to pick you up. But the people in Toronto, myself and the coach staff, can't thank you enough. So
yeah, man, you're the best.
Finish strong, pal.
Yes, sir.
All righty,
Josh.
Adios.
Later. Adios.
Wow, what a first great Gabbing with Gibby segment that was, John. I mean, you pulled that out of your hat. You brought on one of the top guys in the game. Well, that's a nicer way of saying something else.
A pain in what in my hat? Okay.
Yeah, there you go. We're trying to be nice here, right? But that was really good. I really enjoyed that. What an honor, man, for me and for you, just to kind of reacquaint yourself with a guy that you have a long history with.
Yeah, I've always been fond of him. I'm a big fan. But he's a controversial guy now. There's no question about it. He's a lightning rod. But those kind of guys, if it doesn't get carried away, are too good, great for the sports world, and people love him. They can be the enemy if they're on the other side, and if he's on your team, you love him.
Right.
But I think the sports world needs that. When it's under control.
Absolutely. Well, you ready to get some questions? I mean, we're starting a weekly segment here. It's going to be called Ask Gibby. And we have an email address set up for everybody out there that wants to get these questions directed to you.
Does that mean it's coming to is that coming to my private email? I hope not, because
actually it is, John. We're sending it directly to you, so you can be bothered at 24/7.
All right.
No, we set it up separate. Don't worry, no one's going to bother you at home.
That's
unless it's Josh asking for a bottle of that cologne for that appearance today. So you may have to take care of that. But the email address, if you want to ask Gibby a question, just send it to askgibbyshow@gmail.com. That's askgibbyshow@gmail.com. And we'll pick a couple questions a week. They'll probably get a lot of them, but we'll answer a few of them. We got one that came in on the Gmail account because we've been promoting that on your social media, and it's from Derek Donati, and he has a question for you that basically asks your thoughts on how do you keep players motivated at the end of the season if they're out of the hunt.
$1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever, whatever
dough.
they're making, I guess, or whatever they stand to make it in the next year's contract. You know what? That's most of these guys are self-motivated. To get to the big leagues and be a player there for you're self-motivated. You have to be, right? It's like any successful person in it, whatever they're doing. You got to be self-motivated. But in saying that, there's a time you get some of the guys pack it in. I've seen that before too. But you shouldn't have to, right? But I think what happens now is, since there's so much media coverage of these games, every game's on TV and all that. If these guys slouch, or any of them, or they slack off, or they go through,
they get called out.
Yeah, they get exposed, but that very rarely does that happen. But some teams tank. There's just no doubt. There's no doubt about that, and definitely some individuals do.
Yeah. Another question that David had, which we thought was a real good one, is like, "Hey Gibby, question for you: if given the opportunity, would you return to managing in the bigs with the Jays? And if not the Jays, who else would you consider?"
No, you know what? Hey, I'll be a Blue Jay for life, right? That's just, you know what? It's funny. You're a Met guy. I was drafted by the Mets, and my first coaching part of my career started with the Mets. So I'll always be a Met too. Met and a Blue Jay, and I root for these guys, and I know a lot of them, right? But no, I don't. I don't think I can go back there. I've had my turn there. I think it's time to move on. But there's 29 other jobs I'd be interested in. The reason I say that, maybe it's time for a fresh face up there, and they have that right now. And if they're successful, and I think Schneid will do a great job with them, or whoever's next in line, I think it'd probably be a hard sell to bring me back a third time. And I don't know how you could anyway. The team's playing so good. If the team
you're not Billy Martin.
No.
Billy have 5 shots with the Yankees.
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple times he got fired quick, and they bring him back. And I think those days are probably over. Both Cito and I. Cito replaced me after my first go round, so he did it twice up there. And but I think what happens there in Toronto, the guys that manage Toronto, and I think I don't know if any of them after they've left have ever gone to manage other teams. So I think it's kind of like a reward that the Blue Jays bring some of their former managers back because they can't get jobs any other place. Cito couldn't, and I haven't. So maybe I better not. Maybe I better not write off that third time.
And you never know you never know what the offseason brings, and there's always changes in jobs, and there's always turnover. But but I guess you would want to give it one more shot if you had the opportunity. It doesn't matter, whatever the team is.
Right.
We're not saying Blue Jays, but it could be it could be a number of teams. You'd still like to get one more shot in the dugout.
Yeah, I think it's in my blood. It is, and that door is closed pretty good. But there might be a little small crack I still see in there. But if not, I'm good. I'll become a bombastic TV guy, or
there you go. You'll be a bombastic podcaster, but you'll be on Twitter. Just the Jack Nicholson stuff has been crazy, by the way. That you put up
and the
there.
more shows of these I do, I may really open up a little bit, and start carving some people up.
Yeah,
right.
I think you just got followed by John Cena, by the way, on Twitter.
Seriously?
The wrestling guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of big names are following you, John. You're out there. You're making waves in the Twitter world for sure. I have one more question for you, because this is kind of a question that leads into playoffs, and that's always an exciting time. but as a big league skipper, reflect on managing in the playoffs for the first time in the major leagues. You did it in the minors, but in the major leagues for the first time. How was that for you?
I tell you, at first it can be a little bit overwhelming. You know, I've been through so many baseball games as a player and as a coach and as a manager, but there's just something different with everything on the line. And naturally the TV audience and the radio audience or whatever it is that much greater. It's so the team and the moves you make are under the microscope that much more. And there's something about you. It's hard to relax. I mean, you feel the intensity. Everybody's dragging you every which way for whether it's an interview or so that's part of it. So that kind of throws you out of your routine, out of whack. But in saying that, I really felt that in my first game I managed. That first game against Texas. But then it kind of subsided a little bit, and then it kind of got back to normal. But then if something crazy happens in a game like we had in 15 against the Rangers in Game 5, where the ball hit the Odor where he comes back and score, and then the crazy, and all hell breaks loose. Then it kind of revs it up again. You're going, because I had to deal with when Russell threw that ball back and it hit you his bat, and then nobody knew the rule. I had to catch myself. I go, I don't know, sure I know this rule. I've never seen it, and I'm thinking, is it just because I don't know the rules? There's so much. So much surrounded everything in the moment.
A lot of stuff
right here.
going on.
I can't think straight anyway,
Right,
a lot of people will say I couldn't think straight to begin with, so I don't know. Maybe that was normal.
Well, that's it just enhances it when you're in the playoffs hunt for the first time as a manager in the dugout. But yeah, I mean, who could imagine what an experience that had to be for you?
Right.
And, it's just what you work for the entire time is to get to that place.
Well, yeah, and you know what, too, Johnny, real quick, is it was so different about that. And as far as the Blue Jays, it's been 23 years, and then they won back-to-back world championships. Not many people can say that. And then it was 23 years, so it was more than just like your team's a perennial playoff team, right? There's better chances of that now with the extra wild cards and stuff, but this has been a long drought, and so now you're feeling it even more, and the fact that I had never been through it and had no experience with it. I guess it's you just deal with it, man, and then you try to focus as best you can and trust your baseball instincts.
Exactly. Well, you can ask Gibby a question if you'd like. I mean, just send it to askgibbyshow@gmail.com, and we'll have some more questions on the next episode. This has been a good first show, John. I mean, we had a lot of fun. You had a great guest, and this is what people are going to look forward to each and every week with the Gibby Show. I mean, you shoot straight from the hip, and that's what people love about you, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you every week right here.
Yeah, Johnny, I'm looking forward to it. We'll have some fun. I hope people enjoy it,
Yeah, I think so. I think they will.
We'll see, but, you both of us have been through the rigor, so we know a little bit about what we're saying, whether they agree with it or not,
Exactly. Well, as we close the show today, we want to make sure that everybody knows how to follow you on social media, and we have several opportunities for people to do that. I know at Twitter
and it really is me without a blue check mark yet.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's really him. I mean, people didn't think so in the beginning. You got blocked by Marcus Stroman, and there was a little controversy.
Imagine that,
So you got to bring him on as a guest now.
Oh yeah, he'll be on the Stro show's got to. I mean, it's big advertising show for him.
Got to, but your Twitter's @JohnGibbons05, as is your Instagram. There's a Facebook page set up for you as well, and this show is going to be a video cast on YouTube as well. So you'll be sharing links, I'm sure, to let people watch this podcast if they like to watch it, or you could get it at all your favorite podcast platforms. Just look for the Gibby Show and search for that YouTube channel right now. We're going to get as many subscribers as possible. So just put in your search engine on whatever browser you're using, the Gibby Show, John Gibbons, and hit that YouTube button, subscribe to it, and we're going to have fun with this each and every week.
Hey, is that what they mean? Hey, when I watch YouTube all the time, right? And they say, if you like what you say, hit that. I could never. What are they talking
Subscribe.
about?
Subscribe. Get those subscribers because then people get notified when there are new videos up.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's what
But
they call
I love watching.
They call that notifications, John.
Notification. But I love watching like military videos and things like that.
Yeah.
And my wife's big into photography, so we watch a lot of
Yes.
photography type videos. So I'm watching YouTube all the time. But does that mean I got to watch this show now or what? You know?
I tell you, when I put your name in the search engine, you know what comes up? Every single one of your ejections from a major league game.
Oh yeah.
Classic. It's classic stuff.
He's an angry young man.
There's some entertaining stuff on there with you being thrown out of some games. But if you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, it's simply at John Arezzi. If you're a wrestling enthusiast at all, that's what my social media is about. My podcast is John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight. I go back in history. So that's where you could find me. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition. I enjoyed the first episode of the Gibby Show. It's an honor to be with my old roommate, my buddy John.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it after 41 years? We're going to have fun with this thing.
Everybody's going, why don't you guys just retire, man? Go away, because we love baseball.
Because we love baseball. That's going to about wrap it up. As I said, for John Gibbons, this is John Arezzi. We'll talk more baseball with you right here next week. Have a great week, everyone. Go Jays, and let's go Mets.
All right. Adios.